Hey, what up, guys? It's your resident marksman, TJT, back after a very long hiatus, back with the Shooting Range podcast, here talking today about WWE 2K17. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about my career, we're going to talk about features, we're going to talk about the sort of missteps that WWE 2K16 took, in my opinion, and certain ways that hopefully 2K17 will fare a little bit better, but primarily, at least first off, we're going to talk about this whole cover situation. Now, it wasn't too long ago that the news was released that Brock Lesnar is going to be the newest cover person for the cover superstar, I should say, for WWE 2K17. Now, there is understandably a lot of uproar about this because, once again, it's another part-time guy. This is, I think, the fourth, let's see. 2K14 was The Rock. 2K15 was Cena. 2K16 was Austin, and now 2K17 is Lesnar. So, of the last three iterations of the game, including this one, so 3 out of 4 of the last video game covers have been with part-time superstars, and then the only other one was John Cena, which really, why does Cena need the boost of being on the cover? So, let's talk about some things here. In my opinion, I don't really have an issue with Brock Lesnar on the cover because it makes sense. Brock Lesnar is still an attraction, especially now with, at the time of this recording, it's just UFC 200 just happened last night. Brock Lesnar is way big in the mainstream right now with SummerSlam coming up and his high-profile match against Randy Orton on the way. He just won against Mark Hunt last night at UFC 200. The guy is kind of on a roll, but it could be argued that he was on a roll even more in years past. He was on a roll last year. Right now they're doing the whole Suplex City thing, and Suplex City is kind of old news at this point. I mean, if they wanted to capitalize on it, 2K16 was their chance. I mean, they could have done a double cover, as they've done in the past with The Rock and Daniel Bryan. I mean, Suplex City is kind of worn out its welcome by this point, and you kind of gotta wonder why it was Lesnar and why it wasn't somebody like Rollins, who just came back from injury, who is basically being set up to now kind of be the face of the company while not being the face, because the Roman Reigns experiment is still kind of struggling, and now, especially with the suspension, it's not helping things. And they won't, for whatever reason, really accept Dean Ambrose as the face of the company, so that leaves Rollins. And I see what a lot of people are talking about in terms of, Rollins should have been on the cover instead of Lesnar because it makes more sense. But then again, that's not always how marketing works. Marketing isn't really the same thing as wrestling logic. Now, in my opinion, I think this year, of any of the past years, should have been focused on the Shield. And it's not because I'm a mark. It's not because I'm a Shield mark, even though I'm a huge Shield fan. But, just this is where the company is out right now, with SummerSlam on the horizon. And it's almost inevitable that it's going to have a Shield member in the main event, if not multiple Shield members. If not, maybe something happens at Battleground where either the triple threat doesn't happen for some reason or it gets ruined. I personally don't really know why they would have the Shield triple threat at Battleground. It makes me wonder what they're going to do for SummerSlam. But it has to have somebody from the Shield in it. And they could have used 2K17 to hype it up, because already 2K17, the cover's plastered everywhere. It's on WWE programming a lot, and it's really huge, so they could have used that to funnel in hype for 2K for SummerSlam, or they could have built up to a match at WrestleMania, whether it be straightforward Dean versus Seth again, revisiting that rivalry, even though they're pretty much already doing that now because of circumstance, or they could have Dean and Roman, which actually, now that I mention it, they could be doing that. They could definitely try and work, maybe tease a Dean heel turn, then swerve and do a Roman heel turn, or there's so many different avenues with that. And then if you factor in Seth again, if he's gonna turn face, but no, that's probably gonna lead to a Triple H fight, which you kind of gotta feel bad for Triple H at this point, because if he returns, he's got to enter a program with Seth Rollins, and he's got to lose. So he's basically just coming back after being gone from losing to Roman Reigns to coming back to lose to Seth Rollins. But anyway, I got on a little bit of a tangent there. And they really could have done a lot of things interesting with a Shield cover. And I don't know what, because they're still really mum about a lot of the stuff with 2K17 at the point that this is being recorded. But some ideas that I have just off the top of my head, like you could have a Shield showcase mode. I mean, there's enough stuff to really pack in a really good showcase mode. You don't have to spend, you don't have to skip a lot of stuff with something like Steve Austin's showcase mode. You can't possibly pack in every single thing. But the Shield were around for 2 years. I mean, it doesn't have to be the longest showcase mode in the world, but there's so many great moments with the Shield, and you could even go past when the Shield broke up. You can delve into the singles careers. You can do, WrestleMania 31. There's so many great matches. If you were to do a Shield showcase mode, you could play them through, their FCW, NXT days, when they got the call. There's so many different things. And it would have, most importantly, it would have put the spotlight back on the current product, back on current full-time stars, which, speaking of, it really has to be asked at this point. You can't really ignore it or pass it off anymore. And I was kind of at this point last year when Stone Cold was put on the cover, because he's not even really that hot anymore. Like, when they put Rock on the cover, it was kind of understandable. When they put Cena on the cover, it was kind of understandable. Putting Stone Cold on the cover and going with a Stone Cold showcase mode was sort of random. And now we have Brock, which technically is a current guy, but he's not full-time. So you really kind of had to ask at this point, why are they seemingly opposed to putting a full-time guy or girl on the cover? I mean, seriously, why couldn't Bray Wyatt be on the cover? Or Dean Ambrose? Or Rusev? Or, the obvious choice of Rollins or even Roman Reigns? The only guy that makes sense to put on the cover this year who isn't full-time is Daniel Bryan. I mean, that's even better than Lesnar, who's been kind of essentially twiddling his thumbs as this unbeatable beast with no end goal in sight nowadays, and he's just kind of shopping around for opponents. With Daniel Bryan, you have a logical, emotional reason to put him on the cover, to do a Daniel Bryan showcase mode, and it would make sense, and I don't think a lot of people would be upset about it. But and also, why not a woman or a multi-person cover? They could have done a Dean Rollins cover or a Cena Roman cover, or, like I said, a Shield kind of triple threat cover. Heck, they could have started a new feud for Mania with the cover, or have a new guy like Owens on the cover. There's so many different things that they could have done, and it just, I don't know. It seems, I'm not really upset about it, but it does kind of seem like a little bit of a waste to have somebody like Brock Lesnar on the cover, because he doesn't really need the rub. At the same time, you do have to look at it from a marketing standpoint, so It's understandable, but not really my favorite thing in the world. All right, so now we're gonna get into the features, and a big chunk of this is gonna be my career. Uh, I mean, first off, my career just needs to be better. It has been improved, but it can definitely reach new heights. You know, although 16 admittedly an improvement on 14 and 15, it's still, as a whole, it has a long way to go before being considered, in my opinion, a good game. But one big part of that has to be my career. Uh, just, it needs to be more fluid and organic instead of just your superstar. And I'm talking about the look about it first. It needs to be more than just your superstar staring at you on the home screen. And, be creative. Like, give us a shot of them on a bus or a plane. Have that be our menu. You could show their rise in status, too. Like, start them out in just this rinky-dink rental car. You're just coming up in NXT. You could even technically start them out, because NXT's this central location, just in a like real small like room, like almost like a dorm room. Maybe they have a tag partner that you can kind of see in the passenger seat of the car, or maybe now instead of one bed, there are two, or however you want to do it. And then, they kind of progress, and now maybe it's a little bit of a nicer car, or maybe now it's a bus, and then eventually it's a private jet as you head up in the rankings. Just little touches like that make it seem more impressive and make it seem more like actual thought was put into this. And in terms of actual, like, how my career mode works, it's like the rankings should be more than just chasing a title. There's so many different storylines and feuds and things that happen outside of titles. Even when you're chasing a title, sometimes it's not always about the title. And when you do go after a title, it needs to be more dynamic. Have real stories and rivalries. Right now it's too linear, it's too formulaic, it's too simulated. It's kind of just like, plop somebody else into the same old thing that's been happening and then repeat. Um, it should be different feuding with somebody like Kevin Owens as opposed to feuding with Cena, as opposed to feuding with Triple H or Lesnar or The Undertaker. And for God's sake, give me more to do in terms of furthering a rivalry than simply running in during an entrance or sitting in on a match. And I know right now it's reflective of the product, but I mean, the product isn't really that good right now. Not in terms of in-ring ability, but in terms of how they do storylines and how they do rivalries. And cut the monotony. If I'm facing a guy at a pay-per-view, I shouldn't be facing him at the other two shows that same week. I have faced my rivals so many times before the pay-per-view that it's just like there's no creativity anymore. There's no spark. There's no seeming like it's special if, at the main event or the superstars, and then also at the SmackDown, you face The Miz. You face The Miz at SmackDown, at Superstars or main event, and then you face The Miz at Extreme Rules. Then, I mean, I've already beaten this guy 3 times. It's not really fun. And then especially, there are 4 weeks leading up to this pay-per-view. Who knows how many times I face him at that point? Probably once a week. And it's just not really. It makes it less fun. It makes me have to take breaks instead of going on these long binges of my career. It makes me go, oh, I'm facing so and so again. Oh, great, fine. I'll take a break and I'll watch something, or I'll play another game, or maybe I'll go to work. I don't know. Just make it a career, an experience. have actual storylines based on ones we've seen, inspired by real superstars' careers. Maybe have a little bit of free roam. Uh, I don't make. There was one, I think it was '09, that let you explore backstage like the older games did, and that was kind of okay. But like, really make it different. Make working out or brushing up on fundamentals a cool mini game. Like, you have to button mash, or you hit the right button when it appears on the screen, or make it something dynamic to just stop the monotony of just, oh, I'm collecting my point. Make collecting points for your attributes fun. I mean, because honestly, and you can still have it by, you can still earn points by grinding it out in matches, but if that's the only way, there was a really weird thing where one of the authority goals in 2K16 was that I had to do I had to do two barricade breakers, but I didn't have enough points to earn it, and it's not like it was time for the match. It's not like I could just, do some gym workouts or do some, fundamentals back at the NXT or at the Performance Center and earn those points to unlock the barricade breaker so that I can, fulfill this achievement. It felt really cheap, and it felt so computerized and just mechanical, and there was no real intuitiveness in that. It was impossible for me to do it, so it was just an automatic fail, and I had no real choice. Um, let's see. Maybe have some. You know what? I would actually like dialogue, not just the stale interviews that give the same old tired answer from my character because the face heel dynamic is broken. I have to just keep hammering the X button every time the interview comes up because I'm a heel, even though I do all these face things and it keeps selecting face answers and it's broken. I don't think, at least as far as I've gotten right now in my career, I haven't talked to my rival at all, and that's just weird. You know, I forget which SmackDown versus Raw it was, but it was the thing with, like, my rival would leave me a voice message and go, hey, blah, 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 blah. Or, like, the kind of, I can't wait for our match, or I'm going to mess you up. Or, so I think sometimes there would actually be a branching decision with it. And it would kind of be forming an alliance, or not forming an alliance, or making him my rival, or turning on him. And it was actually really kind of interesting in that sense. And it felt like a story mode. Have actual heel face choices instead of just those bland responses that were on a loop. And it was very apparent that they were on a loop. Let me pick my person's voice because everyone is not white. And it's very apparent that this is just like the generic voice of your character, and if you're not that guy, and if you're really not that guy, it's not no, it's not gonna work. Speaking of which, show some equality. Girls play this game too. I mean, or at least maybe it's because I didn't actively try to play a girl in my career. I don't think you can play a girl in my career. Maybe I'm wrong. I think there should be a girl, female, my career mode. But that's a thing of maybe it has to be its own separate mode, and you can't really do the same things, and so maybe it's just too much work. All right, fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it's at least from a business sense, from a time sense, I understand. One thought that I did have that I thought was really cool was I think it was SVR '09 or maybe it was '08 that had the kind of the high flyer the showman, the brawler, the grappler, technician, like those kind of roles. And maybe you could do something similar to this to kind of personalize your character and personalize your career experience. If at the beginning of your career you pick what type of wrestler that you are, and if you're a high flyer, your career is going to play out differently than if you were a showman or if you were a brawler, if you were a rule breaker. That way you can tailor your career interactions to each superstar. And you want, if you face The Undertaker as a high flyer, it'll play different and there'll be different cutscenes and different choices and different lead ups to the pay per view than it were if you were a brawler. And the commentary would be different. And it would just invariably change certain things, making the replay value shoot up. Because maybe sometimes as a technician, you can have this partner. But if you're a rule breaker, you get this partner. And the only way you can play those things is if you pick different styles. Just think outside the box like that. I don't even really think that's that far outside of the box. But in my opinion, at least, I think that's a great idea. But I don't think we'll ever get anything like it. Because it seems like WWE is kind of just resigned to following their formula and maybe increasing on it slightly every year. Like Madden. Sorry, something in my throat. Bottom line, just make it our career. Give it more personality, make it more customizable, make it more personalized. If it's truly our career, it shouldn't feel like Joe from across the streets or Matt from England's at the same time. Everyone shouldn't have the exact same experience, I feel like. Alright, but that's enough on my career. Let's move on to just a bunch of different random features from 2K16 that I still feel could be improved for 2K17. The creative suite, just fix it. The important... Sorry. I'll edit that out. The importing photos thing is way too much of a hassle. And the model guy looks so weird and bland that when I try to alter his face, it still looks the same. I can't really make it look like me without the photo, and I can't really make the photo work, so I'm kind of just stuck with the PS4 equivalent of a meme. Sorry, not a meme. So I'm kind of just stuck with the PS4 equivalent of a me, like on the Wii U. So just make more options available, especially for minorities, especially for guys that just don't look like the sample. Oh my god, last gen. Oh my god, that game sucks. 2K16 sucks on last gen. Fix it. I don't care how. Just, oh, jeez. Especially if you've been playing PS4 version for a while, and then you go back to how crazy, weird, and loose the gameplay is in 2K16 for PS3. It's really weird. It's honestly, you really get used to the slower pace and the conserving stamina, and then you go back to the last gen version and it's just like chicken running around with your head cut off kind of, and it feels like your opponents just don't stay down, and it's like I constantly had to keep hammering and they kept reversing every single thing I did, and it just felt the balance was way off from when I was playing it on the PS4, and it was harder for me to reverse too, and which was weird because they very notably took reversing into account and changed it and altered it on the PS4 version, so it was just weird. You know what would actually be really cool now that WWE has WCW's rights and everything is playing the Monday Night Wars. They've already exploited it in every other possible medium. I mean, let's play it. I'm not sure if they've. I could have sworn, actually, now that I think about it, that they did do it, but I don't think they've really done a Monday Night Wars showcase. Maybe they did the Attitude Era, but maybe they have done it. I can't really remember. Which one was the Attitude Era showcase? Was that 15? It may have been 2K 15. Oh wait, it might have been 2K14. So maybe they've done it, but I don't know. But I think really you could go back to that and make it an actual story mode like a regular game. Let us play through stuff like, the DX driving the tank. Let us drive the tank. Give us scenes from like Bischoff and McMahon's offices calculating against each other. Tell a story with it. Don't just parrot photos and video clips back at us like we don't know what happened. Like, let us live it. Let us really experience what it was like. That, or finally let us play through Undertaker's career, or maybe just the Mania matches. I think we've kind of come close, especially with the whole break the streak thing from, what was that, 2K14? But for what's probably going to be Undertaker's last year, you would think there'd be a whole like Undertaker showcase mode, and just letting us play through some of the big matches. But I don't know. Maybe they're going to do it. Maybe they're not going to do it. We don't really know because they won't tell us anything about 2K17 at this point. Create a story, bring it back, and improve on it. Because I know for a fact I used to always want to create a story, but it was so much to create a story, and for not all that much in return. I remember really trying to create my own stories, and then they just wouldn't really be all that fun when I tried to play them back. So I think Create a Story should come back, and it should be improved, and it should be a lot more seamless. The PS4 and the Xbox One have a lot of power. Let's really use it in a lot of this stuff, because I'm proposing a lot of things that I'm sure take a lot of time and energy and space and required the PS4 and Xbox One to really step up and do some of this stuff. But excuse me, some of these games now on PS4 and Xbox One are doing really amazing stuff, especially graphically. And the graphics compared to other games for WWE games aren't that special or anything. So I think you can still sacrifice some of the graphical content for gameplay stuff and, in-game stuff. But whatever. The roster, it's really simple. Just keep different versions of Legends to a minimum. I mean, it's really annoying that we have to sacrifice current full-time actual wrestlers on the roster to fit in all 3 kinds of Mankind, 5 different kinds of Steve Austin, 4 different kinds of Triple H. Like, come on. Make sure you have... I didn't think this really needed to be said, but it's really sad that it just doesn't... It kind of doesn't happen. Have every single full-time wrestler on the game, Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. Some people like Ty Dillinger. Some people want to play Rhino or Alexa Bliss, and especially when it comes to the aforementioned career mode, constantly recycling opponents and you facing the guy over and over and over again, this allows more variety. So, in general, I think the whole thing just needs to flow better, and it needs to definitely have a more distinct personality. The whole game, really. It can borrow things from other games, like the story of a Rockstar title, the gameplay of SVR's past, Maybe the kind of look of a Madden, like the most recent Madden, looked really great. Let this game be great, because we've never really had a great wrestling game that was really good. I think in turn when you compare to other wrestling games, then they're good, but I don't think we've really had that perfect wrestling game. And I think right now is as good a time as any. You know, the PS4 and Xbox One, like I said, have a lot of power to them, so take advantage of it. And no more steps back. Like, bring stuff that we've already had in other games and bring it up to date. Bring back stuff like the Buried Alive match, the Casket match, the Three Stages of Hell match, the Create a match. You know, really put a lot of effort into making this game fun and not just, oh, it's that time of year again. Now we got to churn out another game. You know, make it less of a chore. Alright, so that's my thoughts on WWE 2K17. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are there some things that I left out that you think should be added? Do you maybe disagree with some of the stuff I said? I always want to know. Until next time, guys, I'm your resident marksman, TJT, and this has been The Shooting Range.